What have you managed to avoid your whole life? Perhaps 30 years ago I was called into jury duty. I was quite excited about the prospect of serving. I go in and through the questions I learn it's about a rape case. I thought I could easily do a week's jury duty. I clearly didn't understand the system. It's not a week's jury duty. That week is simply the window in which you may be called in to serve. The judge said this trial could take 6 months. In hindsight he may have said 6 weeks. And that financial hardship is not an excuse. As the sole earner in my family, I absolutely panicked. I'm talking about almost blacking out panicking. I absolutely couldn't afford to be without an income for 6 months. I haven't gone into jury duty since, but I now better understand why getting people to serve on a jury is so hard. We really need to revamp how it works. I took 3 shots at a party when I was 3 weeks from being 21 and then decided to ride in the car with a completely sober girl because she wanted to go to the gas station. She rolled through a stop sign and the next thing I knew the guy was breathalyzing both of us. I spent that night in a drunk tank, concrete bench and floors with bright lights. No sleep at all. I had to leave for a wedding the next day by 10 a.m., but my car and phone were still 5 miles away at the house where the party was. They let me out at 8:15 a.m. and I immediately started my 5-mile run to get my car and phone so I could make it to my parents in time to leave in hopes they would never find out. I made it 500 feet and then my dad pulled up on the side of the road, threw open the car door, and said get in. I'm not typically a rule breaker, but not mad at all that happened. Crossed it off my bucket list. I was once out with a group of male friends. For reasons that I can't recall we ended up getting into an argument with another group of males. Before I knew it there was a lot of gesturing and shouting as we all squared up to one another. Now, being soft as shit and someone who has no desire to be in a fight, this was not a good situation. Luckily I got paired up with someone who was clearly of the same ilk. Whilst everyone around us started to fight we essentially had a little dance together, on our toes, fists raised but with all the threat and malice of 2 puppies playing. When everyone finished we gave each other a smile and went our separate ways, no doubt both filing our friends with lies of the fight we had just endured. Crazy thing for me is that I trained in boxing and Muay Thai from 12 euro 23 euro. I've sparred at least a few thousand rounds and competed a few times. Somehow, I managed to never get in fight in school or bars. Everyone I know has been in fist fights. I'm a small guy and not threatening in any way. I guess I've just been lucky to not be picked on, and I'm scared of falling and dying in a fist fight lol. Quicksand is a funny thing. I knew that it existed for real, and it was nothing like the way it is portrayed in movies. My dad got stuck in quicksand once, told me about it, and it never really clicked with me until I ended up stuck in it myself. Quicksand is relatively rare. Most places in the world will not support quicksand, but a few specific environments are susceptible to developing quicksand. It looks like dirt with a little bit of water sitting on top of it. My first encounter with it, I walked across what looked like a very tiny puddle on solid ground and wound up completely stuck to my hip in cement like mud. It was liquid for an instant, and then just cemented in around my one leg. I got out by jamming my hiking pole down alongside my leg, and stirring the dirt. Eventually, water re-entered the area, and I could pull my leg out. For a moment there was a big puddle of mud with a huge hole where my leg had been. Then it just disappeared and became solid again. Next time I ran into it, I had a canoe on my shoulders. Turns out, a canoe and double-bladed paddle are pretty much the most perfect quicksand self-rescue tools you can ever have. I just groaned, put the canoe on the ground, draped my body over the canoe, and slowly kicked my way out up. Now, I probe suspicious-looking patches of ground and river flood plains with the stick before committing my weight to them. The chances you will get so badly stuck in quicksand that cannot self-rescue within 10 minutes are small, but very much not zero. Relatedly, I've never been to a wedding, and I'm in my mid-30s. My parents have been married since before I was born, and neither of my siblings are getting married anytime soon. My brother has never had a successful relationship last more than a few months. while my sister has been engaged for a decade with no effort put into planning a wedding, and while I've been in a relationship for a very long time, my soul was quite clear that she has no desire to be married ever. So we won't be having a wedding either. My own family aren't close to any cousins on either side of the family anymore, so I can't even say if they're married or not. I had one uncle who got remarried when I was about 13, but I wasn't invited to that wedding, and he has since distanced himself after that marriage failed, while the one aunt I'm still close to is in her 70s and gave up on dating about 20 years ago. Meanwhile, my soul's family are all either happily married, or younger than her by a significant margin. Her younger brother seems to have no interest in relationships, while her oldest cousin might get married in the next few years, but it's a stretch to assume I'd get invited to the wedding. I barely know her. I fell out of my social circle before anyone really started getting married, so I never went to any school friends' weddings, and I've been a pretty asocial hermit since then, meeting no new friends' weddings to attend. I also bounced around jobs a lot in my early 20s, so there's only been 3 weddings of people I've worked with in my career. The first was a week after I started somewhere, so no invite. The second was a woman who hated me, so no invite. And the third got married in secret and only told us after the fact. I'm dreading the day. As a self-employed contractor, even a week of jury duty would cost me thousands, and I'd be powerless to do anything about it. Although I do know one guy. He's been summoned a few times, never showed up, never responded, never did anything other than immediately toss the summons in the trash. Also never got in trouble. I might roll the dice when the time comes. Dying probably sounds sarcastic, but isn't. I was born with an umbilical hernia bad enough that I had surgery at 2 months old, and I was a month premature, so I had scarlet fever in 1st grade. My freshman year of college I had a car accident where I skid out on ice, panicked, and rolled over a Ford Escort, and walked out with 2 torn shoulders. A concussion was actually code twice, once for a few seconds and again for a few minutes, and needing 100+ stitches in my face, including partial reconstruction of an eyelid. Food allergies can get worse in your 30s. Found that out 2 years ago when I left work in an ambulance and was diagnosed with anaphylaxis in the ear. Turns out I'm allergic to lettuce and spinach, among other things. I have an EpiPen now. 6 months ago, not long after turning 38, I had severe neck pain for a week or 2. Thought it was muscular. It was actually arterial. The arterial dissection caused a blood clot, and cracking my neck dislodged it, landing the clot in my brain. My whole right side went pins and needles. I had a stroke, at about half the age of what we picture as the typical stroke victim. The rate time going, I'll be crushed by a decommissioned Soviet satellite falling from space before the age of 40, but I haven't died yet. Oh man, I used to have a Great Dane, and he was sitting on the couch, my couch in my house, with me, so my roommate chose to sit on the floor against the couch. There was an open chair available, but she leaned against the couch under the dog. Well, after a while she slumped down and my dog slid off the couch and teabagged her. I wish I'd known it was about to happen so I could have filmed it. I have yet to see it happen to anyone. Agent. Getting stung by a wasp/bee/hornet. I am terrified of stinging insects. I have finally managed to become somewhat okay with bees, as long as they are not physically on me, because they generally keep to themselves and just want to pollinate, and honestly good for them. I like that energy. I cannot get over my fear of wasps and hornets. It makes me terrified to go outside in the summer. Every time I see one, I panic uncontrollably. Honestly, until 2 days ago, grief. I'd had family die, pets die, people I know die, and I just always shrugged it off, thought I was just immune to grief, as I'm a pretty emotionless person, until watched my cat get put down the other day, and I've been grieving hard since. Watching him in his final moments really put it into my brain. I think I'd been in denial previously on how permanent of a thing that death really is. And every time it's happened around me I've just denied its existence. Seeing it in front of me, damn shit hurts. Whenever I think of my dad, where my 2 childhood dogs used to live, before they got put down. I think of them all sat with him. They've been gone for years. I guess that was how I dealt with it. Deep denial. Watching Jasper, my cat, in his final moments kinda just unlocked it all for me. I've been mourning not only him for the past few days but every death in my life which I've previously been unable to process. Emotion dump. Sorry, doctor, couldn't process death until the other day. Being straight, I'm bi. As a kid, I just always assumed everyone was bi because both Xena and Hercules were hot, and everyone somehow knew that. But because I was told, when a mommy and daddy love each other very much, they have a baby, I assume that adults just choose to marry the opposite gender so they can have a baby. Imagine 11-year-old me's confusion when I'm told that, actually, most people are straight, and I'm the one in the wrong lol. 9's are easy once you learn the trick. The digits in multiples of 9 equals 9. Like 9 by 2 equals 18, and the 1 and 8 equals 9. The other half of the trick is that the first digit is 1 less than what you're multiplying by. 9 by 3 means the first digit will be 2, so the answer must be 27 because 2 plus 7 is 9. My grade 6 teacher was frustrated that I didn't know the 9 times table so he taught me this. Halloween. My parents were crazy religious nuts so super against it and I was super distraught every year. Even past moving out though I've just not had a strong desire to celebrate it, mostly out of memories of how horrible it felt to be excluded from it. I do still spend a lot on candy to hand out though. Just because I have Halloween PTSD doesn't mean kids shouldn't enjoy it. Driving a car. I'm 37 and father of one. I ride my bike almost everywhere. Longer trips go by train or bus. It's a great way to stay healthy and make a small environmental difference. Living in Sweden makes this both harder, the seasons, and easier, the infrastructure. My town is often considered one of Sweden's best bike cities. Yay. I've never mowed the grass before. I've heard other people reminiscing about having to do yard work growing up but I've never been able to relate. I was raised by a single mother and we lived in apartments when I was a baby. She remarried when I was 9 and my stepfather always did the yard work. After that one we were able to move into a house. Then I went off to college and have apartment hopped ever since. Now here I am, in my 30s. Somehow avoiding having to mow grass for my entire life. I don't even think I'd know how to start a lawnmower if one was in front of me. Not my proudest of accomplishments. 32 years old and knocking on wood like a motherfucker here. But I've never been in a serious car accident or even really a minor car accident. Worst that's ever happened is bio dad hit a deer when I was 7. And I lightly rear-ended a chick that slammed on her brakes in the middle of the road. Everyone else I know has been in at least one accident that was bad enough to send either themselves or someone in the car to the hospital, or at least bad enough to total the cars involved. Having an STD, getting a girl pregnant before marriage. For the record, I've made horrible decisions in my younger days. This was a legitimate miracle. The girl I dated prior to my wife, it didn't clue in for 3 months that we were literally not even using the pull-out method. I just assumed she was on birth control and I was literally teaching sex education as part of my public health position. Honestly, I managed to avoid happiness. Not by will. It's like chasing a cat, you won't be able to catch it. But, with time I learned that I should rather sit with her favorite food and the cat always runs towards me. That cat food in my life is having a better health, better social relations, avoiding addictions and working for my career. Whenever I ignore it, I always end up chasing the cat again. Never even tried to smoke. Never got drunk. When I was 7 I still had the bad habit of sucking my thumb, so my mother, that I regarded as capable of anything at that age, promised me that if I stopped she would quit smoking. I accepted, and in around a week I had completely quit sucking my thumb, while my mother tried to quit smoking for a couple of days and then gave up, marking the first time she had not kept a promise to me in my childhood. That day I realized that no matter how powerful my mother could be, she was no match for whatever the fuck was in those cigarettes. and I never tried smoking out of fear of having my life ruled by them. As for alcohol, I like to have fun while in a lucid state of mind, and I am really repulsed by the idea of not having complete control over myself. I'm not proud of it, and I think everyone should be able to choose, since as long as you don't have a family of your own it only affects you. But I stand by my choice. Being baptized. That doesn't sound impressive until you take into consideration that my entire family is hyper-Christian and my grandfather, who helped raise me, was a minister. My mom's side of the family and my dad's side were from different denominations, and they couldn't agree to which church to baptize me in, and both sides were stubborn, and I ended up making it to the age when I started to question religion without getting the dunk. My step-brother is the only person in my family who I know of who isn't some brand of Christian. I'm truly the black sheep on both sides. I have yet to be offered hard drugs, or pressured to use any illegal drugs whatsoever. I have a few friends who go on a once-yearly acid trip and I was invited, but heavily assured there was no pressure, no judgment, absolute understanding. They just refused to make plans in front of me without the offer of inclusion. So yeah, basically being told my whole school life from pre-K through high school that there would be so many offers of free hard drugs to get me hooked, peer pressure to get me started, and dealers on every street corner everywhere. Never had it happen. Finding out what I'm skilled at. A few times a year, I try to go down a list of skills, common and uncommon, and research them. Nothing sticks out to me. Anything with numbers is a number. I have no artistic skill. I can't sing or dance. Memory issues also prevent me from trying certain things. I'm going to be 41 in October and I still haven't found even one thing I'm passionate about besides reading. Hot dogs. I was a really picky eater when I was a kid and hot dogs just looked and smelled terrible to me. Every birthday I grew up going to seemed to serve hot dogs, but I stubbornly refused. I reached a certain point in my late teens when picky eater phase had mostly subsided, but hot dogs were one thing that still looked so gross to me. At this point it will feel like an accomplishment to live my entire life not eating a hot dog. Marijuana. I was never even opposed to it or anything, but somehow I made it into my 50s without ever trying it. I tried to smoke in college, but my roommate couldn't find any. By the time an opportunity later presented itself in college, it was with skeevy guys I didn't trust, so I passed. And then I never got another opportunity. It's embarrassing at this point. I suppose I could smoke with my niece, but that somehow seems even more pathetic. Having one single friend throughout my entire life that didn't betray me, stab me in the back or whatever. No matter how much I have been there for everybody, not one single person ever reciprocated. It's not like I did that personal self-sacrifice and financial sacrifice just to be paid back, but you would think that after all the effort and energy you put into a relationship that they would appreciate it. Story time. I had 3 hours of dental work done, all while on nitrous, aka sweet air, laughing gas. The last bit was a removal. I adore my dentist. She's very gentle. So she gets the tooth out and my stoned ass said, "Really? Holy cow." And she answered, "Where I'm from, cows are holy." But that's not my religion. "Oh, what religion are you?" "I'm a Sikh." At which point my stoned ass blurted, "Sikhs are cool as shit." She laughed her ass off and said thank you, while I very dazedly, while clamping on gas, tried to explain that I'd only ever heard good things about Sikhs, and it seems like a very loving religion. She was awesome about it. Avoiding the ideal that I should surrender my freedoms/rights/privacy to have the government solve my problems in a cookie-cutter non-personal fashion versus solving my own problems. That my problems are my own, and as long as I am able, I should come to solve them. Government is not my parent or a god that will magically solve things for me. Liberty comes with the pleasure of potential success, but with the burden of potential failure. Yes dude, I had cops in SWAT gear pull weapons on me at the age of like 13 years old lol. Neighbor shot someone in the face with a shotgun and we didn't know about it. We were out playing in the woods. It got real quiet, and then 10 dudes popped up from behind trees with guns and the one in front was yelling, "Don't shoot. They're just kids." They explained us the situation, very aggressively, and told us to go home because the guy was last seen headed towards said woods we were playing in. Shit fucked me up for a while. Contracting CMV, cytomegalovirus. I'm a fairly regular blood and platelet donor since the age of 17. I'm 42 currently, and a few years ago I got a letter in the mail regarding my CMV status due to the Red Cross beginning a program called Heroes for Babies. I'm not a fan of the name of that program. Having a needle stuck in my arm for 15 minutes hardly warrants being called a hero, but I understand that they are using flattery to attract people to donation. Not having contracted this virus means that I may donate to babies, and the sickest is the sick. Only about 15 to 20% of adults are CMV, and most never even showed symptoms when it was contracted. However, it can be fatal to newborn babes or immune-compromised people. Holding infants. The youngest kid I ever held was just shy of a year, and she's the only one. We were going to take my car and her mom sort of unceremoniously said, "Here, hold this for a second," and handed her over so she, Mom, could strap in the car seat. The kid and I just kind of stared at each other. For the record, her mom and I were friends and I'd known the kid her entire life, so I wasn't a stranger or anything. I don't do babies up close. I only recently graduated to being comfortable in the same room with them, and that's when the parents are also present. I'm 35.